southpaw, the notorious Conor McGregor. Black trunks for the champion, Jose Aldo Jr.
Conor relaxed and smiling.
Oh! Just slipped it! Conor McGregor is the new UFC featherweight champion of the world!
Oh, unbelievable!
It was an incredible end to 2015. Conor McGregor's left hand placing him into the pantheon of UFC greats. So, what does 2016 have in store? Welcome to Unibet's Inside the Octagon. I'm John Gooden with former UFC title challenger and resident analyst Dan the Outlaw Hardy. The 2016 story starts off where 2015 left off, in Las Vegas.
Carlos Condit is coming to finish it.
My game plan, go in there, knock him out.
I come to fight, no matter what happens, I keep coming. I'm the champ, I'm here to stay.
I love to fight, plain and simple. You know, I would do it for free. I'll be thinking the same thing I have before every other fight. Chin down, hands up, go out there and take this dude out.
As usual, we have a stacked main card. During the show, we'll be looking in detail at Stipe Miocic and Andrei Arlovski's heavyweight bout. Plus, we'll also concentrate on the prelims fight between Joe Duffy and Dustin Poirier. But first, it's all about Robbie Lawler and Carlos Condit.
Cannot wait. Two exciting strikers, both high finishing rates, different striking styles, but God, it's going to be an exciting one.
I think they call it beautiful violence.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah?
Beautiful violence.
Well, let's get into it. Facts and the stats. Let's check out these two absolute warriors. That's a lot of fights. Both guys got a lot of experience in the octagon. The champion, well, we know what he's all about.
Yeah.
You know, he likes to stand in front of you and punch you in the face.
Yeah, that is the record of a stand and bang kind of fighter. I mean, you know, 68% takedown defense in comparison to Carlos Condit, who likes fighting off his back. He has got good submissions. Robbie Lawler doesn't want to be on his back. And if he's going to try and hit you, 78% of his strikes to the head are landing. So, you know, he's a headhunter, and that's what Condit's got to be watching out for.
Let's take a first look at Robbie Lawler. For my liking, his evolution has been brilliant to watch from a teenager, I think, when he first came in under Pat Miletich.
Yep.
He's really grown and harnessed a lot of stuff that he's now discovered at American Top Team. It's worked very well for him, that switch.
Yeah, he was such a raw talent when he first came into the UFC, and very much the same fighter that we see now, but just not nearly as polished. And you would look at him now and think he's a bit unpolished, but if you watch his earlier fights, he was ruthless. He was reckless with his punching power. So what he's done is, he's especially moving to American Top Teams really helped. He's built the rest of his game around it to support the things that he's naturally good at. So now we see better movement. Now we see a more calculated approach. He's still aggressive. He's still trying to take people's heads off, but you know, he now thinks a bit more about what he's doing. Now just watch the front foot. Just let's watch that one more time. Watch that. I want you to pay attention to the front foot, because this is something that Robbie Lawler does quite a lot, and we can have a go at this. I want you to feel this, because what he does, he likes to maintain range, but he also likes to be able to close range and hit power shots. You can see the ferocity on his face there. Yeah. But watch his front foot, because what you're going to see is, as he's in his stance, and if you stand in your stance and bounce, if you do what he does and just toe tap. Yeah.
Your head position's the same, essentially, but you feel like you can
spring forward. Yeah, you feel like your back leg's loaded like a spring.
Yeah.
And what that allows him to do is it allows him to stand in his stance and stay active, but give a little bit of range.
It looks like I can make up some more distance.
Bang, and then I step in with my shovel punch like Robbie Lawler does. And that's something that's going to be really useful in this fight, is to keep Condit guessing about the range. Watch the front foot in a second. You'll see him back up. There's the toe tap. Yeah. He does it a lot of the time, and it does draw people into his fight. There's that shovel punch that we talked about in the last time we broke his fights down. Other things that are going to be useful: the left kick and the left knee. Here's the shovel punch again. Obviously, we know that's effective, and that is something that's going to be difficult to defend for Condit. But the left knee, here it is again, and we're going to see it again against Jake Ellenberger. And the good thing about this is that it looks a lot like the kick. Yeah. His body movement, he steps across to the right slightly, he fires it with the same kind of angle. Obviously there's a lot of power in it, and he gets Jake Ellenberger's respect very early on in this fight with it. Now in the next clip he's going to land a jab. You can see the effect that has on him. Yeah. You can see that he winced, he looked to where the referee is. He was clearly hurt by that.
It's a serious jab.
It is. Now the Robbie Lawler of old would have probably just waded forward and started trying to take his head off. But the new Robbie Lawler's far more calculated. So if we watch this, you're going to see him throw his right hand out just past Jake Ellenberger's head. It's going to come right in a second. And what it does is it creates an effect for Jake Ellenberger to dip his head down to the side. You saw
just
it.
Flips it out there to get the reaction.
Exactly. More than anything, I think it was the punch that did the damage. It really hurt Jake Ellenberger. And at this point, you just know that a fresh, strong Robbie Lawler in the first round is not the kind of person you want picking away at your face for 5 rounds. I mean, look at this fight. This was the rematch.
Oh, what a beautiful fight.
It was a beautiful fight. But Robbie Lawler, again, is picking his shots, slipping to the outside of the jab. We're going to see it on the aerial shot in a second here. Now, I love this. Look at that. Pause it just at the right moment as well.
Good work.
So he's slipping. He's slipping over his right foot, slightly to the outside, so the jab's going past him. Now, there's not a great deal of danger for him to do this because there's nothing that's going to be coming from this side.
Yeah.
McDonald's not going to throw that high kick off that front leg because McDonald just doesn't use that kick a great deal, not in this range. Condit, that's a different story.
Yeah, loves the off the front foot.
Exactly, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But in this situation, it works perfectly because he's slipping to the outside of the jab and he can power that hand right through without any concern that he's going to get hit with something back because the punch is already past his head.
Yeah.
And in this situation, in this fight, it was just a case of Rory McDonald taking so many punches, he just couldn't take any more. You know, there was damage to the nose. He was obviously in a lot of pain. He put up a hell of a fight. But Robbie Lawler got the better of him that night. And then afterwards, he went into this big, crazy rage and just started yelling at the camera. And his post-fight interview was great. And he was talking about the fact that, you know, he's the champion and he's here to stay and he's always going to bring it. And that's why we love Robbie Lawler, because he's always going to bring it, you know. And he's fighting a guy against, you know, in this fight that's not going to back up either. He's not going to be afraid of Robbie Lawler. He's going to be strategic in his approach, but he's certainly not going to be afraid of him.
There's no fear at all. No fear. Right, we often take to the world of Twitter for questions. Let's go with this one. Thanks to everyone who sent them in. From Dom, will Condit fight safe like he did against Diaz? And how can Lawler force him into a war? So safe, strategic, I like to use it in that fight. It was a fantastic game plan. But you're right. You know, if you try and engage, Lawler's going to try and engage this into a war and take away some of that polished technique that Condit has. Yeah,
definitely. And safe, I understand the context of the word safe, but like you said, it is strategic. It's not risk taking against the guy that is.
Why would you?
A very you know, against Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz has always got unorthodox shots to hit you with. He hits deceptively heavy. From what Paul Daly says, you know, he doesn't look like he hits you hard, but he does.
Yeah.
So in that kind of situation, why would you risk it? Why would you not use your ability and your technique to kind of circle away and stay out of the way and pick him off as he's coming in? And I expect him to do the same thing against Robbie Lawler. You know, Nick Diaz is a southpaw, as is Robbie Lawler. Nick Diaz likes to give you no space in the octagon, as does Robbie Lawler.
So good blueprints.
It was a good blueprint. And you know, we can see him using the same kind of technique in this fight against Lawler to stay out of danger. Another evolution that we've seen is him switching his stance when he's out of range. Now, we discussed this before. He uses it when he's in combination. He'll step through and land from a sort of southpaw stance. But defensively, he doesn't generally use it. So that's an interesting string to his bow because that's going to give him a new dynamic,
lots of new angles.
Exactly, new angles. Now, the low kick obviously is going to be an interesting one. He can chop Robbie Lawler down with that, and if you can take some movement away, that's going to be important as well. And then backing up, moving off the fence, and keeping your head out of danger is going to be really important. I'm just going to pause that right there for 1 second. So, if he gets back to the fence against Robbie Lawler, which is likely, he's going to have to use his head movement and his counter-striking and circling off. I mean, we know he's good at that.
Yeah.
His unpredictability is the other thing that's going to be something that Robbie Lawler's got to keep an eye on. Now, I was actually quite invested in this fight. I helped George train for it. I was there live. Obviously, I fought Condit as well, fought both guys. So I was interested to see how this one plays out. And the unpredictability of Carlos Condit was really what got him into the third round. I mean, GSP was GSP for the most part. But if you watch this, Condit's going to step forward with two-punch combination. Now look at the position his body is in right now. His head is almost ducked right down to the canvas. GSP's hands up. He's in the right posture. He's in a good athletic position, ready to defend. But for Carlos Condit, you just don't know what he's going to do.
It's almost like he's susceptible to getting hit at this point as well.
Yeah, you wouldn't look at that and think that Carlos Condit is going to score the knockdown here, but he does. Because as he lifts his head up, he brings his left leg with it and cracks GSP right at the side of the head with it. Just didn't see it coming. Caught him cleanly, caught him unawares, and that's the danger in Carlos Condit, is he can throw those unpredictable high kicks off the end of a combination, which I learnt myself. He's going to throw one here, caught me across the back. But the problem that I had in this fight was trying to close that range, here I am doing it quite aggressively, but he maintains it with a good jab there. He's controlling the range here. He landed the kick, I threw the left hook. He throws the oblique kick, and then he steps into range. He decided when he was going to step into range. I was opportunistic. I was trying to knock him out as he was stepping in. So Robbie Lawler is going to have to be cautious that he's not stepping in on Carlos Condit's terms, because if he is, there's likely going to be something waiting for him. Whereas Robbie Lawler, he wants Carlos Condit to step onto him so he can land his clean shot. So there's going to be a play. Both guys are going to be trying to do the same thing, and there's definitely going to be a battle for range. But Robbie Lawler is going to be the one pushing forward.
Both fighters have different ways in which they strike as the fight becomes closer together in terms of the range, is what I mean. Robbie Lawler, as we saw against Johnny Hendricks, really did do some very good work and earn a lot of credit on the scorecards. What have you found when it gets into the more clinch type positions?
Well, first off, his takedown defense is great. I think it was 68.3% takedown defense.
Yeah.
It's clear that he wants to keep the fight on the feet. And if you watch his takedown defense, you can see the absolute refusal to go to the ground.
Sure.
We discussed it in the last one.
He's actually very athletic, very flexible as well.
And very powerful. He's very quick at getting back to his feet. And he also finds it quite funny when people are trying to take him down. You often see him laughing. But when he throws a kick or something, it gets caught. Look at what's on his mind. Yeah, I'm trying to stay on my feet, but I'm going to try and club you in the head as well.
It's not like peeling away.
No. I mean, look at his flexibility here, but he's still trying to hit him in the face. This is right, and he's smiling. It's Robbie Lawler's MO. It's what he wants to do. If there's an opportunity to hit you, he's going to take it, even if you're trying to take him down. And watch this. He's up on one leg, he's bouncing, lands on the floor, and immediately straight back up onto his feet. I'd blow my knee out if I tried to do that, I reckon. And then when he does close range, when he is fighting in close, and Matt Brown's great in close. He's a dangerous guy when you close
distance. Good with elbows, yeah.
So this was a good preparation for Condit. But again, he's closing the distance and he's pushing forward. And when it is a takedown that he's defending, he's going to make you pay for it. He's going to punish you for it. Beautiful work. Look at this. Amazingly gets his hips back. And that just takes so much of the fight out of the challenger. I mean, Rory McDonald constantly trying to shoot for these takedowns, knowing that he was already damaged as he was. And this is the one other thing I want to talk about. Now, Robbie Lawler spent most of this first round on his back. He got taken down by Koscheck and he got kind of controlled. He wasn't too bothered about it, but this is why. Because when he gets an opportunity to land a punch, he only needs one. Now, I don't want you to look at the technique, I don't want you to look at the body position, just look at the venom in the punch that he throws and his will to finish. Like, look at that. He's like a jackhammer. Watch the slow-mo replay. We're going to see him power that hand in. I mean, I know some people talked about that being an early stoppage, but Herb Dean did Koscheck a favour saving him because, like Robbie Lawler said, he wasn't coming back. He wasn't coming back from that. And Robbie Lawler can maintain that power in his hands for 25 minutes. And
we've seen that against some of the most arduous fighters in a division as well.
Exactly. I mean, the second McDonald fight, that was a finish in the 5th round, I believe. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, we don't really see people that have got that kind of punching power that can maintain it over a championship fight.
Yeah.
So that's always got to be something that's on Condit's mind. And the fact that he only needs one punch to change the fight.
Risky.
Yeah,
risky
very, very risky.
Carlos Condit then, when talking about his close range work, we see him cutting people to ribbons.
Yeah.
His elbow game is strong.
Yeah.
He really uses a lot more sort of Muay Thai techniques.
We don't see standing elbows as much as I'd like to. But in Carlos Condit's last performance against Thiago Alves, I think it's one of the best uses of elbows that we've ever seen. The first round was quite back and forth, but in the second round he landed a really beautiful rising upward elbow, which we don't see very often. If you look at the position that he started the technique in, he's actually standing in an orthodox stance. So he starts off by firing that right hand forward. So what I want you to focus on is this elbow here. It's a nice rising lead elbow, which we don't see very often. I can't think of a time when somebody's used it as well in the UFC. But what's going to happen is he's thrown this right hand forward and then he's going to step through into a southpaw stance and hit him with this lead upward elbow. Which, I mean, this was the beginning of the end of the fight. He breaks his nose with this. Look at that placement.
Yeah. Breaks
his nose. And Thiago Alves is a fantastic Muay Thai striker. Got caught with an elbow, sent straight to the canvas. And then from that point, it was a case of him trying to recover while Carlos Condit slowly turned up the pressure. And from this point onwards, it's Carlos Condit right in your face, picking your shots and maintaining range very well, not taking any shots of his own. And then body locks, lands a nice big takedown. But let's just have a look at that elbow. Look at that placement there. Now, the reason that he got this elbow to work is because Alves didn't see it coming. And again, we're going to focus on this hand here, and this hand here, and this elbow. Because what's going to happen is Carlos Condit's going to reach forward with his backhand, and he's going to reach to the front hand of Thiago Alves and then pull it down. Kind of like we see people in guard when they circle over the top. Exactly. Yep. So he's going to reach forward, he's going to grab the wrist, and then circle over the top and crack him with it on right on the forehead.
It's so difficult to do.
Look at that. It is, especially when you've got someone that's got, you know, a lot of movement like Thiago Alves.
You can't train this stuff very easily.
You can't. And he does the same thing against Martin Kampmann here. He backs him up, and then watch this elbow. There it is, slice, and you can see the effect. And then after that, it was just a case of him backing up Martin Kampmann. He lands a good left hook here that rocks Kampmann. Then he circles him around away from the fence, but it's the body shot that changes this fight. Now watch this. You're going to see it there. You can see his body posture change. His hands drop. Now not only is he cut and he's bleeding, but now he can't breathe very well. So this is where Carlos Condit will continue to pour that pressure on, just like Robbie Lawler will. But Robbie Lawler is much more of a bang, you're asleep.
Yeah.
Whereas Carlos Condit's going to pick you off and wear you down and beat you up and make you look a mess, and then he's going to finish you. And
as if the fight wasn't enough, it's for the championship belt as well.
Yeah, which makes it even more exciting. 5 rounds instead of 3.
5 rounds of this. Great. So how will the challenger fare? The odds may favour a Robbie Lawler win. Lots of options, though, at your fingertips. You can bet on the method of victory, and as always, there are odds to be found on every round. It isn't a fight expected to go the distance, but you decide. Go to unibet.com for all the latest odds. Well, as we said at the top of the show, we're going to take a look at the heavyweights. Top-ranked heavyweights, Stipe Miocic and Andrei Arlovski. Arlovski has been in fine form, a real resurgence from the veteran.
Yeah, nice to see as well, you know, an old UFC champion coming back and putting 4 fights together.
We like that.
Yeah, first European champion.
I believe he was.
Awesome, how about that? Yeah, Andrei Arlovski looks great. You know, he's got the real heavyweight draw. People love watching him fight. And we've seen developments in his game later on in his career. I mean, we've got good takedown defense here against Brendan Schaub, which is going to be useful in the Miocic fight, given the fact that he's a D1 wrestler. But it's the speed and the punching power that's always kind of set Arlovski apart. And look at this double right hand here that he lands on Antonio Silva. Nice work. And again, as soon as he feels like the fight's over, he's just going to pounce on you.
Yeah, those hand-fists from the Latin
absolute
rig.
Just rage takes over. Look at this short right uppercut that he lands on Travis Brown and backs him up. And this was interesting because these guys were training partners.
You do that to your mates.
I know. But it was a great back and forth fight. I mean, for the most part, Arlovski was winning, but he did get caught. It was a tough fight for him to take as well, given the fact that it was a friend of his. But you would watch this and not believe that these guys had ever spoken before a day in their life.
It's the beauty of our sport.
It is, you know, and this is a job, you know, he's getting in there to do a job, and fortunately for him, at the moment, he's having a lot of success. You know, it's always interesting when we see one of these old superhero-type UFC fighters come back and get back in the mix. You know, it's an exciting fight, and now he's taking on a guy in Stipe Miocic, who is one of the new breed of mixed martial artists, one of the new heavyweight contenders. A Division 1 freestyle wrestler, a Golden Gloves boxer.
Yeah.
He's not oversized for a heavyweight, as is Arlovski. They're both in proportion. They're not overly bulky like Mark Hunt or, you know, overly tall like Stefan Struve. They're in proportion, both guys. And that makes it interesting as well, because that means that he moves quite well in comparison to some other heavyweights, someone like Mark Hunt, who, you know, he really just kind of shut him down. We saw good takedowns against Mark Hunt, and it was the ground and pound assault that really got the fight in the bag for him. Against Junior Dos Santos, he showed good boxing, which against Junior Dos Santos is a real statement. Yeah. And then against Fabio Maldonado, a really nice, measured approach to the fight. He's going to land a right hand in a second that's going to buckle Maldonado's legs, almost sits him down on the canvas, rushes in, then stops, measures it, and then I took 10 seconds out. This is literally 10 seconds later. Same hand again, the right hand over the top. And again, not a massive punch, not throwing like he was going to knock somebody out with it. Nice, short, tight, bang, right down the pipe. No wasted energy, no wasted movement. At no point did he take his hand away from his chin. So his technical boxing ability is probably better than Arlovski's. But that single punch knockout power, that I'm leaning towards Arlovski for that. But, you know, heavyweights, it's a coin toss, anything could happen.
Yeah.
The takedown defense of Arlovski could potentially keep the fight standing, and that's really what I would like to see in this one.
Lots on the line in the heavyweight division as well. So this bout will determine the next heavyweight title challenger. Stipe Miocic just shades it with the odds, but What do you think? Odds can be found on every round. Watch and bet live with Unibet. So the other fight that we were going to take a look at was Joseph Duffy versus Dustin Poirier. Quick note, go and have a look at the in-depth breakdown that we did for this. The fight that never happened in Dublin, sadly. Gets a prelim spot. It's obviously worth the main event. I can't wait to see this one finally go down.
Yeah, finally. You know, Joe Duffy, there's so much hype around him, given the fact that he's the last person to beat Conor McGregor. And in his 2 fights in the UFC
his stock's
so far,
just improved as well.
Yeah, massively. They'll be sending him UFC belts through the post soon. You know, he looks like a fantastic fighter. He looks like one of the best prospects we've got in Europe right now. And there's not really any reason to disagree with that. I mean, he's had 2 fights in the UFC so far, and he's shown 2 sides of his game. He showed a nice scramble here against Ivan George, who's a good, solid black belt, wrapped him up with a nice triangle, and just never let it go. Extended that triangle, extended the arm, and got the tap in that fight. And then in his other fight against Jake Lindsay, we saw a good striking game, an aggressive, well-rounded striking game. Worked that body shot, which took the wind out of him, and then just finished the fight from there. But he's shown a nice, diverse, well-rounded game. It's going to take someone like Dustin Poirier that's going to really challenge him and see where his mixed martial arts is at. Poirier's been around for a long time. He's been there with some of the best guys around. And much like a guy like Robbie Lawler, if he hits you with one shot, it can be a fight changer. I mean, Yancy Medeiros here did a really good job of staying in the fight, but after the first couple of shots he was hit with, he really wasn't much of a contender in it. And again, against Ferreira here. Beautiful shots, good measurement of his punches, no real rush as well, but an aggressive push-forward style, which could potentially play into a Joe Duffy game. I mean, obviously, you know, he's got good submissions, so if he ends up on the floor, Poirier's going to be the one trying to establish top position, I would imagine. But he's going to have good awareness of submissions from his time at American Top Team. Yeah. But then on the feet, again, you know, it's precision against power. I don't really know which way to pick it, but I certainly think that Duffy's got the more well-rounded skill set standing.
Poirier really enjoying his new home at 155.
Yeah.
Great matchup. So, some dates for the diary. UFC Fight Night on the 17th of January sees TJ Dillashaw face former bantamweight champion Dominic Cruz in Boston. On the 30th, Anthony Johnson takes on Ryan Bader in Newark. And at UFC 196, Cain Velasquez will seek revenge as he meets Fabricio Verdum in Las Vegas. Well, that's it from myself and Dan for another year. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Inside the Octagon, we'll be back in 2016, bigger and we hope better than before. Until then, enjoy 195 and have a happy new year.